Good day, folks. Everything new under the sun as we track towards and get closer to the return of the Lord, the second coming of the Lord, the 7 year period, the tribulation, the great tribulation. We know there's a lot of things that are going to be happening, and basically everything is on the table. You talk about violence and war and pestilence and famine and global economic collapse and global tyranny and rule, dictatorship, world government, you name it. Everything is on the table, and we see that coming down the pipe real quick. So we're going to quickly look at a couple of articles which, again, I think confirm that we are very, very close to some big things happening. And I've always said, I think 2022 gets worse. I don't think it stops. I think there's always a next level. It's like going up a set of stairs. We get on one step, and you think, oh, this step's flat, no problem. It can't possibly get any worse. And then there's a great big step, and another great big step. And we started off with the trucker convoy. We went straight into the war with Russia, the Russia-Ukraine war. And most of us thought, that's going to be pretty quick. They're going to get Russia out or something, or NATO nations are going to come in and push Russia back. Come to find out, that is a quagmire now, and going to last a very long time. Well, I think there's a next step, and that really is going to turn out to be what I believe is a global war, effectively. We'll start off with the kind of the headline item here. U.S. intel assisted in the sinking of a Russian flagship vessel. Officials claim Bombshell escalation. Now, this is no longer, I'm sure Russia knew exactly what and knows exactly what the U.S. is doing, what they're providing for intel, how many men they have on the ground, and what sort of weapon supplies are coming in that are coming directly from the U.S. or other NATO nations. I'm sure Russia's completely aware. Their intelligence agencies are not stupid. They know this. The problem is when this gets out into mainstream media, out into the regular citizens, then it becomes an embarrassment. Then it becomes an overt war. No longer can it be swept under the rug and just put away. And the more that's overt and in the open, the less Putin has any way to actually save face. And I think the U.S. has done everything effectively to prevent Russia from being able to save face, from the crushing world sanctions to the sinking of their flagship vessel, no less. They could have taken out a secondary vessel to put pressure on Russia, but no, they take out the flagship vessel of the Black Sea Fleet. And again, Putin just has no way to save face, and it's as if the U.S. is almost pushing them to war. And I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know why they're doing that. I don't know why they're not giving Russia any out. They're not giving Putin any way to get out of this, to save face, and to say, okay, we've taken this piece, and let's stop there. There's escalations and there's provocations, not only from the Russian side, but from the NATO side, NATO members and the U.S. Less than 24 hours after the New York Times issued a provocative report citing unnamed U.S. officials who are celebrating that American intelligence sharing with Ukraine military helped take out Russian generals. So this is out in the open news, and I'm sure Russia totally knows this already. But again, once it gets out in the open, it's an embarrassment for Russia, which means Russia is all the more likely to go to World War III and to trigger World War. Amid what seems escalation after escalation, and this is the real question, who is escalating this conflict? It almost seems like NATO and Western nations are escalating this. Why would they want to get into war? Do they make any money off war? Well, we know they do. Do they gain any control out of war? Well, just like the pandemic, they were able to declare martial law to keep people in their houses, to shut down economies, to do what they wanted to do, to transfer money from small business to big business. And into the hands of the rich. They make use of a crisis, and they know how to make use of it. Escalation to escalation, emergency to emergency is how Gregory Mannarino continues to talk about it. Problem to problem, crisis to crisis, and they will enforce their power and consolidate their power. So, new revelations of Washington's deepening and perhaps increasingly direct role in fighting Russia and Ukraine, NBC brings us a doozy. Intelligence shared by U.S. helped Ukraine sink Russian cruiser Moskva, U.S. told NBC News. It says, as a reminder how hugely significant the claim is, and just how dangerous in terms of representing a massive escalation. Remember, Russia's going to declare war Monday. I brought you the article yesterday. They're going to declare war in Ukraine so that they can bring all their troops and conscript troops, effectively force Russian population to come into the army and go to war. Once they declare official war, they can do that. Right now, it's a special military operation. So this is an escalation, and I think maybe this is part of the reason why Russia is forced to declare war, so that they can legally conscript, foot soldiers, basically. The Moskva was considered the flagship of the Russians' Black Sea Fleet and had 512 crewmen on board before Neptune anti-cruise ship missiles scored a direct hit in mid-April and was the most embarrassing single blow to President Putin's war effort of the whole conflict thus far. Has there been any retaliation? I don't think there's been anything that... I don't think there's been any actual retaliation yet. Is Putin saving that for a special time and place? I think very much so, and we may get some ideas about that shortly here. This is from Natural News. Now, I don't usually cover natural news, but in any article, in any news source, there's always a grain of truth. False flag coming. As U.S. inches closer to war, DHS releases a report claiming domestic terrorists are set to target power grid. So another threat of power grid. And what can Russia or China do to quickly take out the United States as a world reserve currency and the world economic power and the world hegemonic power? All they need to do is take out their economy or take out their power, take out their electronics, and they would quickly be on their knees. You don't need to take them out with conventional warfare anymore. So, Associated Press, the AP, extremist groups in the United States appear to increasingly view attacking the power grid as a means of disrupting the country. Are we going to see a power grid situation maybe Monday, maybe next week as Russia declares war? I don't know. But Department of Homeland Security is suggesting this is credible. And, of course, suggesting it's domestic terrorists. They don't want to pin anybody. They want to say it's Russia or someone else. And who also are they calling domestic terrorists? Well, basically anybody who supports Trump. So there you go, as they gear up for the elections. I think it's the midterms, actually. Extremist groups in the United States appear to increasingly view attacking the power grid. Domestic terrorists have developed credible, specific plans to attack electricity infrastructure since at least 2020, according to a report from the Department of Homeland Security. The report also claims extremists adhering to a range of ideologies likely continue to plot and encourage physical attacks against electrical infrastructure. So we've seen a bunch of fires in food processing plants across the U.S. Is that Russian? Is that something internal, domestic terrorists? Or is that simply coincidence that that's happening? I don't know. Experts on the U.S. power grid have pointed out that it would be difficult to knock out power to the nation given the size and decentralized nature. The DHS reported also notes that attackers, without inside help at least, would be unlikely to produce widespread multi-state outages or without outside help. I don't know why they just continue to look for inside help. I guess they don't want to blame anybody outside because it's racist or some sort of phobic thing to blame anybody outside. But it's all domestic terrorism right now, isn't it? Because they're going after political opponents, and that's kind of their main goal, to continue to hold on to power. That's what the government wants to do. This is another way that Russia could really put the pinch on the U.S., and I think they are. Global grain reserves, extremely low, will be depleted for years, warns top fertilizer boss. Global grain stocks, extremely low, an issue that has been amplified because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I think Ukraine supplies something like 10% of the world grain harvest, something like that. We think it will take at least 2 to 3 years to replenish global grain stocks. You know what? By that point, we'll be in the middle of the 7-year period if my timeline is anywhere accurate. Both Ukraine and Russia accounted for more than a quarter of the global wheat trade. There you go. About a fifth of corn and 12% of all calories traded globally between the two. 12% of all calories. Are we heading into world famine? Yeah, absolutely. And the longer this Russian conflict drags on, they don't need the pandemic anymore to shut down the economy. They were able to shut it down by sanctioning Russia. And what is China doing? They're fighting back by effectively locking down their citizens, preventing trade and ships from Shanghai, the biggest trade port in China. Which is jamming the supply chains, which is causing the price of goods to increase hugely. And again, there's no reason for China to be locking down, its citizens at this point with Omicron. And so I think part of it is economic attack on the U.S., although I haven't seen anybody suggest that. I've been suggesting it for a while that, maybe there's all different and more complex reasons why China is locking down its citizens. All right, now this happened in Canada. Canadian military actually used cell phone data of its citizens to track Canadians, and that's old news now. that came out a couple of years ago, I think. I forget when it came out. Late 2020, I'm not sure. But news coming out of dailymail.co.uk. The CDC also used location data to track millions of Americans to see if they were abiding by the law and following the law related to lockdowns. U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention paid for location data harvested from millions of cell phones to track compliance with COVID-19 lockdown measures. Are they tracking you? They absolutely are. Can you believe we're in this world where they're tracking your location? We don't need a mark of the beast. They are already tracking you. They know where you are. They know what you're purchasing because they know what stores you're going into with your cell phone. They can line that timestamp up with the debit card or the credit card purchase at whatever it may be, a Home Depot, Best Buy, any a clothing store, the Gap. They know exactly where you are, and they can match that up with timestamps with what you're buying. So they have all that data on you. So they've had this for a while now. All they need to do is consolidate it and put it into some sort of mark in your right hand or your forehead. And the Antichrist will use that to track you and to control you. The only real thing they can't do right now is easily kind of turn your finances on and off. But we've seen now with the trucker convoy in Canada, the Canadian government did that. What did the Canadian citizens do? They shrugged. They didn't do anything about it. They didn't seem to care that the Canadian government was able to freeze, quote unquote, your bank account without taking you to court first, without a court case in front of jurors, without any sort of due legal process. They were able to lock down and freeze accounts, and the Canadian citizens did nothing. Now, hopefully we'll vote on that come next election, but they did it, and no one blinked an eye, it seems. There was no massive uprising or complaint about it from the citizens of Canada, as if they think they're not going to be affected by this. The people who were against the trucker convoy, don't they realize that if the government feels that they are doing something that the government doesn't like, that they're going to be frozen next? I think they don't think so. I think they think they're safe, and they don't think they'll ever be frozen. But as soon as they say a word against the existing government, they could potentially have their bank accounts frozen. So it's a precedent, and it's going to come back. And there are laws there now that are in place and that were put in place so they can do this more easily and quickly down the road. So we are marching towards Mark of the Beast, folks. We are marching towards world government. They're already tracking you. All they need to do now is implement the feature where they can control you. And they will do so by economic reasons. Economic and health and safety. If you watch that video about that guy from Amaretto, I posted in the community group, watch it. It's a scary sort of thing. It's about a man who travels to this country or whatever called utopia, where everybody controls everybody else. There's no police anymore, but you get fined by taking, if you break the law, someone takes a photo of you with their cell phone, and they fine you, and they control people by fining, by economic ways. They, give you a $200 fine for doing something, and that keeps people in line, and so they're scared to do anything. It's a scary situation. We are moving quickly towards that. All right, I'll end it there, guys. I don't want to go on forever, but it's a scary time, really, to be alive. If you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ as your personal Lord, if you don't know what's coming, if you're trying to be blissfully ignorant about this, and I think most citizens of the world are just trying to pretend nothing's happening and that their freedoms are not being removed. Most people are trying to do that. They're trying to ignore it, but it's going to come down hard. So I'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.